Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check. All right. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Nice.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Too Fool for Cruel. I apologize for the long wait. This episode has taken me a while to get around to. I've been quite busy with some other projects of mine, and due to some scheduling problems here and there, I just decided to venture into other things, so I appreciate you waiting and continuing to stalk me in the future. I love you for it. Today's guest is Eli Flynn.
What's up? Glad to be here.
He is an accomplished Rochester musician, but he's also accomplished in other fields as well. He's a Nazareth College graduate, and he's been in 3 bands, one that I followed more closely than the other 2. Upward Groove, Greg. I know Greg.
Yes, Upward Groove.
And I want to say, what was the other one? Not Giant Panda, but AbleBodies.
AbleBodies, yeah.
AbleBodies. I have heard of AbleBodies, but I don't believe I had ever heard them.
Yeah.
I may have heard them, but
Yeah.
I definitely had been to some Giant Panda shows.
Right on. I appreciate the support, dude.
For sure. Yeah, man. So we're rolling into summer here. It's nice as hell outside. I'm glad you came over.
I know it'd be nice to do this on the roof or something.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
basically on the roof for those who can't see. It feels like we're in this like alcoved space. It's really cool. There's a lot of art on the wall. It's very nice.
Yes, we're in the attic.
Yes.
The Craftmatic attic. Oh, I'm not even going to bother with these notes until much longer. And
Cool.
so, Naz, how was that?
Naz, what an experience, man. That's cool that you looked that up. That's awesome. It's funny. I realized how many people like went to Naz after going to Naz. Before Naz, I went to this school in Pittsburgh called Duquesne. I was there for about a semester before coming home, and I was just kind of getting the itch to like, be a musician. Like I loved music therapy, which was my degree, and ultimately in the program that I started with. But I kind of wanted to like, try being in a band and see what that felt like for a young 18-year-old kid. Like so many kids get trapped into the whole college thing and like don't know what the hell they want to do or haven't had too much experience with things. And for me, it was like, oh, all right, I'm a young kid in Pittsburgh. Like I was meeting a lot of really cool musicians, and
Pittsburgh's an amazing city.
Truly. Pittsburgh has come a long way too over the past 10, 12 years as well. And what an inspiring place to be. I was in my first band down there. Fell in love with rock and roll music, big rock scene, roots rock. And yeah, I just started listening to all these bands that like otherwise for some reason or another never got a chance to get around to. Like, but down there they were really into like the Black Keys, White Stripes, kind of like roots rock and roll Americana bands, and it was like really special. And that music always holds a special heart, and I feel like is at the kind of foundation of whatever I do, whether it's reggae or pop or whatever.
Yeah, I was so I know that Giant Panda had more of a reggae vibe to it. So when I turned on Narita, it was like, okay, this is definitely Giant Panda, but I hadn't ventured into Upward Groove at all yet, so I couldn't, place your voice at all.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, so I don't know if he's like playing guitar on this. I don't know if he's like, I don't know, because I had messaged you, and then like I had just got a song up, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit him, and then this is gonna be the start of the deep dive right here. It was a beautiful, beautiful song. That's such a bummer that the pandemic and everything. I mean, you guys would have been full force the last year and a half, 2 years here.
Truly. Yeah, I mean, the whole Panda thing was an amazing experience. That was like when I was 16, that was one of the first outdoor shows I think I've ever seen. And I was just like, I want to start a band like this. And that was what influenced Upward Groove, not necessarily in the genre sense, but just in the idea that, like you had a band that was making a big sound that had some horns to it. And then, like flash forward to Narita, it's funny because you're not the only one who didn't realize it. And it's just kind of like this weird serendipity. I feel like that me and James and Dylan and Chris and Tony just kind of like have this sound, and vocally, the three of us singers, sometimes it's hard to tell us apart, which has been said, which is like a really cool compliment for me as a young kid being obsessed with that band. So, thank you for your comments about the song.
Yeah, it was a beautiful song. I listened to it several times. So Giant Panda, Upward Groove, is that dissolved, or was that just a logical next step in your career? I don't mean to how can I word this? Was Giant Panda the logical next step, or was that almost more responsibilities, almost, I wouldn't say forced upon you because it's all love. These are people that at least from what I read in the bio, that you've known for a long time. So I'm sure that it's making those transitions are easy. But I just remember Upward Groove having like the start of foundation at the time, at least when I don't know if you know Abby at all, Abby Haugland, who passed away.
Yes, of course, yeah.
She's how I met Greg, and then Greg obviously plays in the band. So
yeah, I mean, I've known those guys in Upward Groove for a long time, and we've lived a lot of life together and experienced a lot of things, like passing of friends. And it's a band that for me is never something that's going to be gone. Like we just had a reunion show after years, and it was kind of like a running joke that we had. This whole thing that we were going to keep doing reunion shows, like Upward Groove's last show, and it was like years would go by, and it was Upward Groove's last show, and it was people caught on and thought it was hilarious.
With it, dude. I fuck with it hard.
Yeah,
like, I really like those songs a lot.
Thank you so much, man. That's really cool. It's got a really, really special place in my heart. All that music and all those friends, and it's like we're all here, so why act like we can't still make music again? And we had the opportunity to do a show earlier this year, and it was awesome. Shout out to Flower City Station, one of our favorite venues to play.
Definitely a Rochester staple.
Yeah, we were actually the first band to, I think, play on that stage like 8 or 9 years ago. So that obviously that's where we wanted to go. But yeah, man, that group, Upward Groove, there was no really like pause point there, and then Panda began. It was just kind of like, we were playing less and less with Upward Groove. It made more sense for me to pick up with Panda. I got the call, and I remember just being like scared shitless, and then also incredibly excited.
Because they're such a staple in the community here. I mean, they're like one of those bands that for a while was like a guaranteed headliner, or right underneath the big cover band headliner that was going to be at a Party in the Park venue or something like that.
Yeah.
So I could...
In just doing my own art and like fantasizing about getting paid for it, I start to, the doubt starts kicking up, and it's like, well, what if now you're like under responsibility to these people to like have something coming out on a consistent basis? I know how flaky I am, and I know how my interests waver, and I could go balls deep into something for 3 months and then see one little aspect of it that just turns me on way more than, and then I'll, and not having one clear direction and things like that, I know that it's also going to slow in the process to getting paid, and then how is that
going to affect me once that all starts? I know some of my questions might be more half thoughts and half questions, so I apologize.
Cool. We can work through that together, man.
I apologize for that.
That's fine. No, I you said it well. It's like Panda is a band that has a lot of fans, and me being one of them. And I realized I was just as big of a fan as anybody else, honestly. So it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was quite interesting coming in and having that experience. It didn't feel real for a while. Those guys are basically my heroes, and I had to learn how to be friends with them first, and I had to learn how to we had to learn to trust each other, and thankfully we get along exceptionally well, and it just was kind of like this thing that happened naturally. But I was scared, I was like this little kid coming to, imagine being a fan of whatever band or group or artist, and then like saying, hey man, like, well, you want to come on the tour? It's like, yes, but fucking no. You know what I mean?
Had you traveled at all for music other than, binging back between the tri-state area and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. I've gone on regional tours. I'd been playing with a band for a little while called Mrs. Canato. Later changed to Burn It Up, but it was a ska punk band, and that was a lot of fun. Played down in Florida, up along the East Coast. I hadn't been out. Let's see if this sounds right. Yeah, I hadn't been out west before with the band. Panda was the first time going to places like Phoenix, San Diego, Santa Cruz, Berkeley, and areas all the way over there in the west. But looking back, let's see. I joined the band in 2019. It's 2022. We've played all over. It's still a goal of ours to get overseas. I've written a few tunes with them, and we've made an album that's coming out this fall. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about that.
I was just about to ask you what's the name of the album going to be, but now I'll hold that for a few months
I
from
need to
now.
talk. Let me text James now and see if I'm allowed to talk about this.
Yeah, exactly. Really? A lot of them are, dude. A lot of those, like, just gotta walk in the closet. Oh, damn. Where's that? Florida somewhere. Yeah, sounds right. Everybody's all fucked up. Yeah, dude. It's especially like you're saying. Let's snap back. I'm all pick up. Okay.
So the text to James has been sent about talking about the album. We'll see. James frequently is subject to misplace or destroy or forget where he placed his phone. That is in no way slight towards you, James. However, you know the deal.
Constantly fumbling.
Constantly fumbling, indeed.
So, man, these notes are just haunting me right here.
Just dive in, man.
Okay, so Need Someone. Fucking love that song. Instant chills is what I have written. I could feel the groove. This was the first Upward Groove song I must have been listening to. In another song, No Shame, you mentioned Buddy Holly. Sorry.
Buddy Holly, yeah.
Buddy Holly. Is that a self-image you have? I didn't rewind it. I just wrote that down immediately. Is that a vibe that you see in yourself? Because I have Johnny Cash meets Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, that's super cool. I've never been compared to Johnny Cash. That's really nice.
The collared shirts.
I like that. Oh, I like that a lot. And I'm so glad that's a great question. The thing about Buddy Holly, so for me, Buddy Holly has always been this icon in rock and roll that is just pristine rock, very clean rock, rock that your grandma and your mother and your girlfriend will love. And that's sort of what the song is. The song's all satire, it's about growing up in this beautiful little bubble of whatever area you come from. Not particularly directed towards anybody per se, but it was like this feeling that I had that people held themselves in a completely different category depending on where they came from, right? So for me, Buddy Holly was like the idea of somebody who's just living in this like picturesque 1950s neighborhood, cookie cutter house. And the tagline comes in the bridge. Bet you feel better around the people you know, but there's no shame in admitting that we're all cut from the same stone. And that's what that tune is really about. That's cool. Johnny Cash and Hendrix. Wow.
You have a very distinct writing style that even though I didn't recognize, even though Narita sounded so different, when I went back to it after listening to Upward Groove, I was like, oh, yeah, that's definitely like, I don't mean to say that I have your writing style mapped out in my head, but at least as far as a lot of this, I loved Boothang.
Yeah.
I wrote, love it, hate it, video is so perfect. Yeah, it's like the perfect, the video, it was the whole thing just, it came together so well that I had to write that down. Sorry. Like I said, these notes are
No, that's
very, very much just jotted down.
cool. I love that you wrote that you hated it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like I'm so,
passive a lot of the time, and I almost I hate my heart. So not necessarily hate, but like, I don't know. I don't want to use this to complain, but every once in a while, I'm sure everybody does, but I feel disrespected in my life and throughout my journey in this world, and I feel like a bit of rage or a bit of anger, a bit of snap, a bit of not holding it down might be better for my relationships with these people because I'm being my authentic self with them, so I'm actually giving them the respect of being myself, not just sugarcoating things. That's refreshing. That's very hard for me.
so when I say love it, hate it, I mean that more like sometimes when I listen to albums and songs, I will hear something and I will not like it. And then later on, those things that I don't like will become my favorite parts of the album.
That's so cool. That's exactly what I was trying to do with that song.
Like, literally, they'll become my, like, and just the thought of putting it on for someone and then it totally not being, and them being at the first part I was when I first heard it,
Yeah.
but I already have the
Like,
go back.
No. You gotta
Fuck
really.
yeah, dude,
Yeah, sure.
exactly.
Sure, that's great, dude, because that's exactly what I was trying to do. For me, I just wanted to, it was so fun making pop music like that. I really had to get over the fact that, like, I know people are gonna fucking hate this thing. I know people aren't gonna like it, and that's okay. And for me, that era in my musicianship was so important because I learned how to like write stuff without giving a fuck,
Fuck
and
yeah.
whether or not it was pop or not, you know.
Yes, I very much like that. Who did the video?
Yeah, Julia Hart is her name. Exceptional videographer. Her husband Raleigh Van Epps directed it. They co-directed it, and we storylined that thing. It was like the most legit project I'd ever been a part of. She does weddings. She's awesome. Weddings and photography, videography. You know, we shelled out some money for that, and you know, that was also another realization that, you know, good things cost money.
Hell
And if
yeah.
you really love your shit, you gotta pay for it.
Only reason any of this stuff is here is because my buddy, my neighbor, writes music and sings, and we were just freestyling in the car on Instagram Live, and I was like, damn, we actually like kind of have something here. Like, I know I'm not the best singer. If I could call myself anything, I'm more of an ideas person. It's a lot harder for me to like necessarily see the act of things to fruition, but I very much enjoy helping other people achieve things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways,
Every like great artist needs somebody like that. You know, if it's a manager or a producer or something, that's just as important as the art, you know.
so I called a buddy, the first guest I had on the podcast, because I know he's been making music, and I said, I was really just coming to him on some homie shit, and I was like, yo, what's good? Like, let me come over and fucking record. And he was like, yeah, I got an engineer. It's $60 an hour. And I was like, at first, I was like, oh. I was like, oh.
How dare you?
How dare
We're
you?
friends.
I can't get this off the strength. Like, I haven't seen you in 6 years, but, like, you're not just inviting me over right now. And, you know, obviously that passed. It wasn't, thankfully, too long before I was like, of course it's $60 an hour. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
of course it is, Chris. Of course it is. So,
There's that blurred line between friendship and professionalism, isn't there?
I'll side note that. So basically, in my stubbornness, I just started buying a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And like watching YouTube videos. Like, I'm gonna do it myself. I got the mental energy now that I'm sober. I'm not, pissing my entire day away chasing one task down. Not searching that down to its very root on the daily basis. So, maybe the things that I've wanted to do in my life, they won't just be pipe dreams because I've put the pipe down.
Yeah,
in
very
essence, or whatever. But oh shit,
It's a good metaphor.
What did you just say that I said I would come back to? Sidetrack.
I was talking about the, professionalism versus friendship thing.
I almost think that in 2022, a business relationship is the best way to start a friendship. As crazy as that sounds, establishing those, what I do for you and what you do for me, not to continue those types of things, but just establishing a respect, like a foundation of respect, because at least with myself personally, I'll just go with the flow. Like, I'll legitimately be like, oh, fuck me or whatever. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Like,
yeah.
okay, like, but if you start, I don't know, and at least I've found in the twoest new relationships that I've made with other men, they started off as me like giving them rides and stuff. So we established like a cost. This is like, yes, you're a friend of mine, but if you respect me, then you would never want me not to have this money. 'Cause you know what I mean?
Got
like,
you.
So
you start off transactional, and then after a while, it becomes like, I don't want to necessarily just make these transactions.
right.
I trust you enough to do things for each other. Yeah.
Because I'm not keeping score, and like, damn.
Until you are, right? Until it's like, oh,
well, yeah, until it's
okay.
like, yeah.
All right, dude. I picked you up like 10 times this week.
When I offered to buy lunch last time we hung out, I was hoping you might offer.
There was
the
a limit on that, right?
Yeah. But it's all good, man. I don't know. I guess maybe that's more of like things that I've clocked recently that have helped me, maybe, and not advice for other people.
Surely.
For myself, as someone who, for better or worse, feels like maybe every once in a while, like, man, they didn't need to do it like that. I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. Pandemic's made everybody a little bit more wishy-washy than they were before.
Sure, dude. I mean, for example, right, like I'm working as a music therapist in the school district. And schools are just kind of a depressing place to be. I don't know if it's because, well, I know why. I mean, it's because you got the mass, you got all of these cultural, social challenges. You've got a lot of parents who are angry at teachers like they've always been, and now it's just kind of like everything's just been mucked up, and people are leaving in droves. And it's tough. But on my other job over at the psychiatric center is a completely different experience. And it's just juxtaposition, every day going to those. Some days I overlap and I go to both jobs. But what an interesting world we're living in. I mean, it really is a strange time. I feel so lucky and almost like selfish that I'm doing well. But then at the same time, I'm able to turn that selfishness off and that guilt off, because I know my service that I'm providing is helping people.
From an outside perspective, in the 10 videos I watched, you're Gucci.
Thanks,
like
man.
you're literally doing something.
Thanks,
like
buddy.
Literally, it's very cool.
I appreciate
So,
that. That's nice to hear.
It's one thing for me to say don't feel that way, but I feel that way too. Like, I haven't worked since right before winter started. I give people rides and shit, so I make money like to live and do whatever I need to do, keep my phone on and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can totally feel that.
Yeah, I mean, guilt is a really useless emotion too. At the same time, it can be very limiting. If you have a lot or if you have a little. So honestly, man, that's where a lot of my songs come from. You talked about Narita, about being, that song was about me going to Japan and flying into the airport, which is called Narita.
The artwork for that?
Yes, yeah. The artwork for that is the Shinto shrine, which was up in a mountain that I had saw, drawn and illustrated by my dear friend Alexander Falls, who is in Colombia right now, where he lives half the year. Amazing artist, musician, plays in Ngoni. Him and Haley Davis play music together, and they're amazing people. And the fact that kind of thing can come together, in a pandemic, it's wild. I mean,
Japan is crazy right now.
Japan is crazy, and it's the most beautiful place I've ever been, and I want to go back. Like
COVID restriction wise.
Oh, COVID wise,
not letting people out.
It's hard to get there no matter what. And yes, on top of COVID, it made things much more challenging. But such an inspiring place, and I hope you get a chance to go there at some point, Chris, because it is beautiful.
I don't know if the state of New York will ever let me leave the country again, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's tough. But maybe you can, I don't know. Never say never, dude.
I'll astral project from time to time.
Yeah.
Send me a couple good photos, and I'll try to make it there.
Right. Maybe like one day you won't even need to worry about that.
Dude, Google Maps can take you on some pretty crazy adventures if you really can just... My grandfather does it. He'll have YouTube up and watch live train stations, just watching trains, because he, grew up working on trains. He loves trains. So he'll literally just watch a live feed of trains pulling into stations all day.
That's dope.
It's a trip.
And he's in heaven probably, right?
He loves it. He's old. He's forgetting things, but he loves it.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Lost and Found. My note for this was...
Oh, wow.
A harder vibe would be dope as well. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, that's
more of like
my favorite band ever. Go ahead.
Yes, that was the only note. That was the note for
wow,
that.
you really went down the rabbit hole, man. That's an old song. I was like 17.
Yeah, I went to a couple of the very first ones. I was like, okay, this is cute, but let's go a couple years forward.
That's so cool.
And try to see.
Lost and Found. That was like a love song. My first love song. Yeah. I don't know. To me, that song sucks.
I thought it was good,
but
and I thought it was good, and I thought that a second version of it with more of like a harder rock funk would be good with that.
Yeah, I hear that. That's a good note.
The rock residency. I just have a nostalgia trip, just seeing, Ryan and Greg with you guys. And you all look the age when, like, I was hanging out with him.
Yeah.
So I just have nostalgia trip for that. What else can we get into? So music therapy is when I was talking to you through your story. Is that what you were doing? You had the kids in the studio and...
No, that actually was something completely different. But It does look similar to what I do.
Okay.
So those were our drummer, Chris O'Brien, and his brother, Matt O'Brien, was there. Our videographer for Panda, Mike Martinez, was also there. And who else was there? Amy, which is Chris's partner. So Chris has this awesome space. It doesn't belong to him, but he rents it at Wicked Squid Studios.
Okay.
And Josh over there is the owner, and he's allowing bands to rent out that space.
Very cool.
So it was Chris hit me up one day. He's like, "Hey man, I got this place once a week, Tuesday at XYZ time. Do you want to come by? And my kids are going to be there, and it'll be fun." So we just jammed, and his kids.
It looked fun.
It's so fun, like so wholesome, and his kids are learning music, and they're outstanding. They're going to be outstanding musicians, and even more outstanding people. And it was really fun because like we don't usually get a chance to just hang as a band because we're working. We're all in separate places. Tony's in Buffalo, James is in South Bend.
Now, is that because of just the looseness of things with COVID, or is that there's these you were all?
Yeah, that's where they
stationed?
live. Yeah, we're all stationed. So the only ones that are stationed are here are me, Chris, and Dylan. Dylan's got a family. He's a busy guy. Chris has a family. He's a busy guy. I'm like this kind of like anomaly in the band. It's like young single kid. But it's fun. I mean, like any chance we get to jam, it's super cool. Panda's always had the philosophy that music is a family thing. Music is a generational thing, and
Very much so.
to be there together was just really sweet. It was really nice.
God, it really is a generational thing because you grow up listening to things and it becomes such a foundation for where you create from, but all at the same time new things are happening. So like that foundation is constantly being altered and like chipped away and reformed.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah, and who knows, how Chris's kids are going to be influenced by this jam. I remember just being so young and how important it was for me to be anywhere with music, and how each time it brought me closer and closer to wanting to be a musician. So I know how important it was for them, and then it didn't even matter what the music sounded like, because they're still learning how to play with people,
Yes, as
amps
corny as
cranked
it
to
sounds,
11 and,
yeah. Oh shit!
out of
I
tune
have
guitars.
a gift for you. Speaking
You
of
do?
amps cranked to 11.
What?
I do.
Oh my God, dude. You got to be kidding me.
I'm
What is
not-
this?
I'm not joking with you. It's a cigar box.
Dude, crazy.
Yes,
Thank you.
I had to move some things around in order to get this angle, and I came across that, and I was like,
This
"Bet
is sick, dude.
he's probably gonna at least think this is decent."
Oh my God, a cigar box? I was expecting conversation, let alone, a gift. This is excellent, man. Thank you. It's going to go right in the studio.
Dope.
Much love, dude. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you for coming over and doing this with me.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the kids. So do you have like a actual residency for the music therapy? Is that what you were talking about with the other center? I didn't know if it was a split thing or.
Yeah, so it's my career. I work there. I work at the psych center 20 hours a week, and I work for BOCES essentially 20 hours a week. So I kind of split my time.
BOCES Fairport or more of a broad?
BOCES 2, which is West Side. So yeah, it's I get to work with kids, and I get to work with all the way 3 years old, all the way. My oldest client is geriatric, like 70s, 80s.
And these are people you're teaching, or literally just people that they're people that look after them would notice that they could use some benefit in socializing and learning something?
Sure. Yeah. Good question. So at the psych center, it's inpatient adult psychiatric setting. So it's people there who have basically gone through other rehabilitation programs. Some of them outpatient, some of them inpatient, but they need more acute treatment. So more round the clock type of treatment. And a lot of my clients and patients I see at the psych center are very ill. Combined diagnoses, substance use disorder, and with schizophrenia, bipolar. But it's such an important job, and it's such a rewarding job because, I get to give people their voice back in a lot of ways. Traditional talk therapy is really intimidating for a lot of people, and you can talk about music with somebody for hours and hours and get to know everything about them.
Even if they don't play music, they have, for the most part, a taste in something that they enjoy, and you having the musical foundation, you can open that book to them a little bit more and give them perspective on it that as just a listener they might not have gotten. That's very cool. Yeah, and it's much more practical than these places buying horses and doing equestrial therapy or whatever it is. With technology nowadays, you can have like a legitimate full studio in a closet walking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse, but the best part is the cool thing is that
I would say better, but I've never met a horse.
Sure. Well, maybe you should. No, yeah, dude. I'm just lucky that I get to do what I do, and I feel like I get to make a difference in people's lives in real time, in the moment, with music, in the same way that my relationship is with it. You know, I have a very intimate relationship with music, and so do a lot of these people. And some of these people are very talented musicians, and some of them are not. But it doesn't matter because we all sit together and we have just an equally productive and therapeutic time, and it's really intense and it's beautiful. And with BOSI's, it's very similar. I do the same thing with kids. It's a little bit more designed towards, an academic curriculum, but it's beautiful.
Which is good. It's a school.
Yeah, it's in a school. You're in a building with teachers, so there's going to be that element. And I try not to get caught up on that because sometimes I can talk myself in a circle about how I don't want to be a teacher. But it doesn't matter because I'm still having an influence on these kids in a way that they really need, that's creative and artistic. And, I reach them in different ways that other people can't, which is really special.
I never really had that one teacher that, took me under their wing or anything like that. But I can think of more than several moments where a teacher did one thing. It was just, and it stuck with me forever. So I think it's very noble and very cool. And if there's a part of you saying, I don't know if I want to be a teacher because it's not cool, I would say that it is cool.
Thank you. I feel it. I feel that it is cool. And I'm not a teacher, and I am a therapist. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I can sleep pretty well at night knowing that I get to be an ego-driven rock star and I get to be, like a therapist. Because I feel like both sides of myself are being rewarded in a way that I'm finding personally these days a lot more value in that intimate relationship I build with people in a therapeutic setting. However, it waxes and wanes. Like some days I'll be just like, damn, I wish I could be out on the road. And next week we're going on the road, and I get to just ego out with my buddies and make music. And that's a different form of, it's therapeutic music, right? It's not music therapy, but you're playing music for people who need to be hearing some sort of message, or maybe they don't even, maybe they just need to just chill out and they've been having a stressful day. Maybe they just lost somebody, So we reach people in different ways, both in Panda and in my career, but it's unreal sometimes, It's unreal that it's a reality for us and a reality for me, and I'm lucky. Yeah.
Hell yeah. You mentioned ego a couple times. As someone that I would say from an early age, I don't know if you would say it about yourself, since we're talking about ego and whatnot, but is very talented. Did you already have a strong foundation of the positives and negatives of us all having an ego, or is that something that you had to kind of fine-tune throughout your years of playing with different people and, having different personalities in the room and checking that ego and letting that ego shine when it's for the art and creating something beautiful? Because I truly feel that ego is so essential to who we are and how we think of ourselves and the ability to even think of ourselves. And everybody, it's so tricky because you need to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. So more of a direct question, was this something, tuning that ego, did you have, a lot of I'm the shit vibes when you were younger? Yeah,
yes, 100%. I'm pretty sure my grandparents think that I shit gold. But yeah, ego for me was huge. But it was because I felt like Upward Groove was making the best fucking music of all time, and I knew we were doing it, and I wanted people to listen to it, and people hated me for that. Hate's a strong word, but people would comment a lot, like, man, you're pretty cocky, like, oh, okay, settle down, and like, no, I was like, no, man, we're making great fucking music, people love it, we should be at the top of these headlining shows, and that was a pusher for us. But sometimes, it got to a point where I didn't know how to turn it off, and like, the stage act would start coming into the personal life, and it'd start making silly decisions, like taking drugs to become more sociable and that kind of thing, and that's what really was harmful to me as a person and as an artist, because I think it was physically harming me, and it was changing sort of my brain a little bit, and for a while you kind of lose track of what the songs are or what they mean, and what does it matter? You just want to be in front of as many people as you can. And there's a lot of bravado in what we're doing these days. I really don't have that type of connection with music.
And do you think that your vocal range suffers without that ego in the back of your mind?
I guess it depends. Do you mean like physically, like the vocal range, like
just when you know you're snapping into what you're trying to achieve, and like it's flowing through you.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I feel like in my own life I've crossed the line so many times with people and the things that I say that I start to create imaginary lines for myself, and then I feel like I'm crossing them even when I'm not. And when I check in with people and maybe apologize when I shouldn't, and they're like, "What are you talking about? Like that wasn't even coming on my radar as offensive to me or anything. I've known you forever. I know how you are. I know you're whatever." And I don't know if it's just getting older and checking that ego so many times that your ego is almost like, well, fuck you then. Like,
yeah,
you know,
I will say that I know, like, right before I get on stage, that's when it comes on. And then right when I get off stage, that's when it comes off.
It's the reverse for me. I get so petrified. It's like instantly any confidence that I had is now fucking 20 paces back.
Yeah, it takes practice, dude. And I was definitely overcompensating before. That's why I think I brought it off stage and tried to make it my real persona. You know, I think I really wanted people to know that I wasn't afraid. And but I was. And the more afraid I was, the more cocky I probably appeared.
But hey, man, maybe people are having a bad day and they need a representation of a confident, cocky person to boost them. You know what I mean? I think it all has a place. Like, I think you're right. A time in a person's life where that is the motivating life force of the thing, and then we harness and control it instead of letting it control us or what have you. And I struggle with that a lot because I will, with social media and things like that, I don't know if my art is less attractive or eye-catching, or social media is just different. I don't know what it is, but I feel like my engagement has just been so much less than it was at other points. And I don't feel like I'm making anything that's less. In fact, I think it's better. I think I'm cutting the fat in a lot of things where I would have left it in just to be authentic.
Yeah.
And or not even noticing that it's fat. You know what I mean? And it gets it's so frustrating. It's like, well, damn, why am I doing this? You know, and it's not to say that it's not helping somebody, because I've been told, as I'm sure you have, someone random will come up to you after they've seen or heard something and say, "Hey, you never know who that's helping, you know, keep going." And just, you know, it only takes one person really saying that for you to at least have that floating around and keeping myself going. But it's so distracting. Like, say so basically my morning routine is I'll come here, I'll listen to an album, try to like create a muse for the day, and I'll usually write something in that time and post it to Facebook, and then I'll just be distracted checking my Facebook to see if anybody's liked it.
Yeah.
Like I can't get into a rhythm. I'm just totally debilitated by something that I feel is pushing me towards the goal that I'm trying to get, which is my art recognized in some way, and where I, you know, as much as I enjoy helping other people, you know, I've worked for so many other people my entire life. You know, you build other people's dreams for so many years, and it's like, okay, like I feel like I can maybe try to work on my own dreams for right now.
Yeah.
And then to have that be the time where everything starts being the sliding down scale, it's like, fuck, where's my ego right now? Like, come back to me. Come back to me.
Yeah, I relate to that, man. I'm working on an album now which is just all of my original music. It's just under my name. And I haven't done that in a long time. And I'm already flash forwarding to like the time when I have to release it and being like, oh man, how many likes is this gonna get? You know? But that's fine, because I know I'm doing it really at the end of the day, whatever I'm doing. If I'm truly doing something from start to finish, to scratch an itch, and it serves a concrete purpose, it doesn't matter. whether it gets 1 million likes or 100, you're going to be happy no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of set yourself up for success in that way. Because it's like, if Chris says he's going to release an album and he's going to want it to have 1 million streams in the first couple months, right? He's going to work at it differently than he is if he says, I'm going to put something out and I'm not really doing it for XYZ. You know, both are really admirable ways to do music. But you can't kid yourself that you're one or the other. You know.
Side note, have you seen the new season of American Horror Story?
I haven't. I have not.
Okay, never mind.
We won't go into that unless we snap it and then we watch it and come back. We're wearing different clothing. It's clearly it's like nighttime.
Word.
But yeah, man, those are all good questions. Really good questions.
Oh man. Fuck. Check it out though. I mean, I hate, you gotta watch this. It's like, yeah, I got a lot of other things I really.
There's
need
so
to do
much
as well.
media out there, right? I mean, shit. It's like, oh, I gotta. Fuck.
What do you listen to?
Ooh, that's an even better. Okay, recently, you know who has great taste in music? Chris O'Brien. Like, we'll listen to stuff on the road that's like a lot, like 90% of it's reggae music, roots reggae music, and then like,
Which is, forgive me if I'm incorrect in saying this, Panda's kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like a dub reggae.
Yeah. The dub in our name really comes from the live music that we do in the dub. We have an engineer, Tim Brackett is our mixer on the road, and he's the one that's responsible for a lot of our pops and whistles and those kind of sounds, which really give us our kind of claim to fame, for lack of a better word. But Chris O'Brien has shown me so much like really cool music on the road that really resonates with me, and I don't even know if he knows this, but it's true. I've talked to him about it. I'd like to think that's why he asked me to come jam with him, because it's fun to get different types of music going with your bandmates, like outside of what you do.
It is such a beautiful thing to, over the course of a friendship, see both of your tastes in music just broaden so much, because you're just hitting each other off with albums and songs that are
like I've been listening to this band Big Thief, which is indie rock band. Big Thief, Andy Schaaf, a lot of like acoustic singer-songwriter stuff, and it's just inspiring me. The lyrics, the way the song, like the simplicity of some of the songs, but yet so complex and so strange. For whatever reason, those guys are just so much more comfortable taking like bigger risks when it comes to like thematic risks when it comes to writing music and talking about music, and it seems way more like vulnerable, and almost makes you feel like anxious or listening to it, or nervous or depressed. I think that shit's so cool. If a song makes you sad, it's like, oh, what the, you know what I mean? What just happened to me? How did this person get inside my head? And to me, it's just so cool because
sad, like my boy was just like me, sad.
No.
Or like literally like, this sucks, I'm sad.
Like, this sucks, I'm sad. I'm like angry that I had to listen to this, but it's like but I'm like so impressed. It's, how can somebody do that? How can somebody win influence over your emotions?
Oh man, if I had the answer to that question.
And it's like, I've never figured out how to do it in that way. I've never figured out how to do it in like a way that is so, oh my God, that was so vulnerable, and I feel that way too. Which is like not pop music.
No.
So it's just so cool to have that kind of experience when you listen to something new. It's kind of still foreign to me, but I really appreciate it.
Any hip hop?
Hell yeah. Tons of hip hop. I've been listening to a lot of Kid Cudi recently. A lot of Kanye West, because I've been watching his documentary Genius, Jeen.
One of the best things I've seen in my life.
Isn't it
great? Dude.
Isn't it fucking great? I really love that.
I almost don't even want to get into Kanye, because I ride for him so hard, especially even more as of recently. And it's such a mixed bag with how people feel, and then like you add a supposed like emotional abuse aspect to it, and all of it becomes so taboo just to even talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
people
again, those lines that we're all like creating in our head, and then there's also like landmines that are being placed. Like, you have conversations with people, and it's like you have this wonderful or mundane conversation, and then you think it's almost over, and they'll say something like, and I'm just using this as a quick example, but, and I can't believe there's people that don't think there's a real war going on in Ukraine. They'll just throw out the one hot topic, like, and it's like, what are you trying to do right now? Like, regardless of my opinion on this, what are you trying to do?
Right.
Like, are you just confused and you're upset and scared, and this is your way of, like, blurting it out just to, like...
I think that's exactly what it is, dude. I mean, how often, like, what if that person had said, I'm scared and confused?
Yeah.
Like, nobody talks like that.
Yeah.
Because whatever reason, like, whatever, if it might be, like, a male thing, like a man thing, talking about, like, emotions being hard or whatever. But, yeah, it's like people really talk about shit in a way that they're clearly, like, scared and, like, nervous and anxious or upset, but they'll say things that are just wacky to make it seem like, well, that's why I'm upset, because of the war in Ukraine, and none of that shit makes sense, instead of saying, like, I'm nervous about the outcome of this war.
Right.
You know?
They're just making a clear line in the sand, like,
Yeah.
will you cross this line?
Right. It's
Because
wild.
then I will have you completely figured out, and I have no reason to be scared of you anymore, because I know exactly who you voted for or whatever. Like,
yeah, it's very
fucking-
polarizing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's like politics in general is just becoming like a religion in and of itself. And I don't know if that's like social media based, because, you know, like I had mentioned to you before we started recording, when you connect that many friends, you connect as many enemies. And I was talking to my sister's ex-boyfriend, and we were having like a back and forth about a picture of just like some Congress people like shouting, and he's like, can you believe these idiots? And I was like, I really think it's like a social media thing. Like, everybody has supporters now. Everybody has a counterpoint. There are no facts anymore. It's just you have something, and then you will have an opposition. There is an opposition to be found, and it's like one click away. And I use the example, like, if Vikings knew that there were people out to the west that they could have sailed to, they would have sailed immediately, but they didn't know those enemies existed. And the second they did, they started creating a situation where they're at battle with somebody. And it's just so easy to do, you know. And in order to start a fight with someone a few hundred years ago, you had to, like, put on your boots and start walking. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
you just got to put on your I don't know, your fucking vape.
yeah,
Start smoking your vape and start typing.
you legitimately might lose half your family to go argue with someone.
Right.
Like, just on the journey.
Yeah, I mean, it in that sense, it's probably very evolutionary to have polarizing viewpoints. That's human. That's what humans do, right? We fight, we argue, and then we like come together and we do things that advance our culture and our society. We do really stupid things, like kind of objectively, that don't make a lot of sense. But another thing, yeah, like we're designed to not get along in some ways.
Yes,
You know?
it helps to have a counterbalance to your own perception of the world. And going back to ego, if you don't have anything to balance how you feel off of, then you don't feel, because you don't have, like, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
Like,
If everybody got along all the time and everything was great, that life, I imagine, would be very, we wouldn't be very evolved in the thinking
No.
department. What's that book? Oh, man, dude, this is going to kill me. The Eloi. The people were called the Eloi. We read this in, like, elementary school, and it was it was about this guy.
The Last of the
traveler-
Mohicans.
The time traveler. Oh, dude. Oh, it's going to drive me. No, not The Last of the Mohicans.
Animal Farm.
It was along the same vein of, like, a post-apocalyptic world. Everybody goes this kid and this, like, almost like a Back to the Future thing, where they go to this place and the world's perfect, but the people are just like so stupid and weak and dumb, only because everything's perfect.
Right, no adversity to sharpen their swords.
No adversity, no diversity, no nothing, dude. It's all everybody, like, the people were like blue, and they all look the same and shit.
Oh, an animated film?
It might have been, man.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Shit. If it's if it's a cartoon, then I know what you're talking about. And they're like big giants, and there's like people walking on them and stuff.
Maybe.
They have like big circle yellowish
I think
eyes.
so. Yeah.
Oh wait, you're talking about a book, and I'm talking about.
Oh, unless they made it into a movie. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But the people were they were called the Eloi. We're gonna find this.
You snap out of it, yeah. Let's see. The Eli. Oh, I got a text back from James. Sick. We can talk about the album. see this shit anymore. The Eli people. Yeah. The Time Machine. Whatever. H.G. Wells. Okay, H.G. Wells makes sense. Yep. Yeah, are we back to her phone? Are we back in? What are you asking her? No, she's getting out of work right now. And, I'm working right now, so. Right. Uber lady. Sorry, I'm sure she's very sweet and very nice. She is sweet and nice. No, it's, did throw me for a loop. So should we go right into the Eloy? So, the Eloy, right? Maybe we're snap back to reality here.
The Eloy were people from H.G. Wells' book, The Time Machine. And the idea was that the Eloy were happy people who speak a simple language and are mainly interested in playfulness. And I remember it being like this big deal where like he's like gets there and he's like, what? These people don't have an independent thought.
And on a subconscious level, you're like, and it kind of sounds like my name, so.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. That's maybe that is. Oh God, that's messed up. If that's what I was thinking. But yeah, I don't know. Where time's really slipping away from us, isn't it?
Oh, the power of editing is going to be
Yeah.
strong in this one.
Totally.
No, I might even just throw it up and edit out very little.
Hey, dude, whatever it takes.
It's I don't know if it's the laziness in me or I love doing this live. So at the start of the pandemic, I was streaming a lot on Twitch, and it was going great. Like I was actually like things were working out, and then all of a sudden my laptop stopped wanting to stream.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah. So I just like stopped.
That's a good point, man. I've realized that somebody told me, I think it was Panda, one of our managers from Panda was like, you have to do a live stream and it has to go for at least an hour.
I was gonna live stream this just from the light up there.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't know. I feel like if we do this again, then I will. I didn't know how easily we would pop into things. And I don't know. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable by having like the thought of it being live as well.
Oh, I don't. Give a
I know
shit.
you're very accustomed to live.
Yeah.
In general.
Well, I guess. Who knows? Who knows what would have changed? Hopefully not much.
If it was live, yeah, probably nothing. We've been pretty good here.
Yeah, pretty consistent.
Try
pretty
to
open
the lines very neatly here. Don't think we stepped on any. Maybe the
Toes.
Eloys are gonna be pissed.
Maybe we'll get a letter from H.G. Wells'
Yeah,
attorney.
H.G. Wells is gonna be like copyright.
Oh boy.
Scuzzy Weber, Pittsburgh artist up there. Enjoy your last
Oh,
Slut of Satan. I got a
nice.
couple prints off of him when I was down in PA.
Right above the Mac Miller.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. What do you think of Mac Miller?
I've always loved Mac Miller. Had a really special place for him, especially when he was doing things when I was living in Pittsburgh. He was all over the place.
Yes,
Him and Wiz Khalifa.
I was down there when he was putting out Good AM, and there was billboards everywhere.
Yeah, man. That dude was so talented. It kind of started off at in a college rap kind of way, but then really, really dug in deep. And
Definite party rocker in the beginning of it
Yeah,
all. Like his
like-
music was definitely like basement music.
sure, and he had a lot to say, man, and he said it very well. So, R.I.P. to Mac Miller.
For sure.
I think he was, so just a side note on that, right when I decided to get sober for like the first time, I was 26 and he died at the age of 26, and I remember that being a big thing. It hit me pretty hard.
Yeah, especially someone like that. You think if they're gonna die, they're gonna make it to 27 and die at that age to die before 27.
Yeah, and that kind of started the whole wave of rappers that started dying really young. You know, like 21, like Lil Peep, Juice WRLD, bunch of those kids. Man, they were like 21.
I don't mean to ask your age, but what do you think of the 27 curse? Was that something?
Well,
you
I
said
made it.
26. So you made it. So
I'm 29. I turned 29 on March 10th.
It's arrogant for myself. You've actually accomplished some things to have been scared at 27 about it. Like, oh man, hope I make it.
Yeah, I was like I was not scared that I wasn't going to make it, but a lot of things were uncertain for me, just in my own head about what I was doing, who I was going to become. I feel a lot more peace these days. I think the 30s are going to be the new 20s. I don't know. I hear a lot of people talk about
I'm
that.
almost 34, so I'm just hoping to make it longer than Jesus now.
And how do you like? Yeah. And how do you like your 30s?
The pandemic kind of put a weird spin on it because I don't really recall the last 2 years in a normal timeline.
Yeah.
But everything's good. I don't physically feel any different. I'm good.
Cool.
I put on a bunch of weight like right as soon as I got sober, and I'm like coming down now again. So everything's been pretty good.
Awesome, man. Happy for you. It's huge.
Yeah.
Sobriety is no joke.
Yeah, especially like something like methadone or like any of the other psych meds that they'll put you on. All that shit just makes you retain so much water weight.
Yeah.
Just like,
Right. Yeah, that's tough. That's
but
tough.
as soon as my dosage on all that stuff started, I wasn't on any antidepressants or anything like that. But as soon as my methadone dose started going down, my weight just literally started just dropping off with it, which was a blessing because I always had like body image stuff. And then to get sober and like have energy to talk to people but feel disgusted with yourself, it's like shit.
Yeah. It is wild, isn't it? The false confidence that it brings, and then like
100%. Oh my God. The false confidence that opiates gave me was the sole reason I started it and did it for so long.
Yeah.
Like my sexual prowess was at the top of its game. My anxiety was gone. Like I just went through life. Everything was grand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if this is too much, just like raw information for your brand or whatever, just mention things like fentanyl and things like that. But once like heroin was gone and fentanyl started coming around, it's so much stronger.
Right.
So like that sexual libido is gone now, and like the confidence is gone. It's more just like a killing yourself thing,
Yeah.
not like any sort of fucking this is fucking like I don't know.
It's scary, right? I mean, you become so dependent, and it's like I don't know anything else. I'm too afraid to try anything else because your body is so used to that feeling of shit. It seems like you're never gonna be bounced back to like whoever you were or whatever, you know.
Or who were you?
Yeah.
Because it's been going on for so long.
Yeah, and you miss a lot. You miss a lot of good shit, and you miss a lot of bad shit too. That's like the trade-off, I feel.
Oh, I was just having that conversation with my grandfather. He's losing his memory quite bad, and I was driving him back from a doctor's appointment, and he asked me what I was going to be doing the rest of the day, and I said just working, and he said, you know, what does working for you look like now? Because I mean, I removed trees before. That's pretty easy for him to visualize, and I said I turn on my little piano tutor for the 20 minutes it allows me to fucking play it, and I do that. I'm explaining my day. And I said to him, because he always had a keyboard in the house and he would play it, and I said, I wish I had paid more attention, you know, all those times you were playing the keyboard probably would have done me a lot of good today. And he got a little teary and he said, everything good I've ever learned in this life I now forgot.
Oh.
And I'm like, fuck.
Jeez.
And of course I made it about myself almost instantly, and I was like, oh well, you know, I hate to say it like this, but in my own life, I've been through a lot of bad things, and it's almost kind of beautiful to think that maybe at the end of it all, like, it won't be just the good stuff that goes, but it'll be the bad stuff too. And I was really trying to say that he's lived a good life, and I admire and respect him, but it ended up just me talking about my fucking self.
I'm sure he could at least pick up on the idea that you were trying to circle back to what he was trying to talk about.
I was definitely trying to circle back.
I bet you he got it.
I'm a big circle backer. I'm a big circle backer.
That's
for sure.
right, man. All of us are. It's so easy to talk about yourself, and it's not in a way that's ego. It's just like, here's my experience to what you just said,
Right.
and that's all that is, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't. I would like to say that I'm not doing it like because I'd rather talk about myself, but it's like the quickest way for me to put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Is to openly express a time in which I could see that, you know, in my own life.
Yeah. The skill of a therapist is to kind of do that without the first part. Right? Like speak wisdom to people without reflecting back upon themselves, which is such a skill. That makes a good therapist. You know, because the listener would be like, this guy doesn't know what I'm talking about. If after every time they said something like, well, in my younger years, you know, or it sounds almost like lecturing.
Right.
But there's an art to reflection and good listening, you know, and that's That is tricky, isn't it?
This is such a random topic, especially to ask a male counselor of sorts. But what do you? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in treatment yourself, but in just working in that environment, I'm sure you come across a lot of male counselors. What have you noticed the differences, if any, between male and female counselors?
You know what? A good counselor, not much, right? Like
Right.
a good counselor is able to understand their experience as a male or a female, identify that, and approach it in a way that is resonant to their client or their patient, right? Because and a good counselor is honest about their experience. And a good counselor doesn't necessarily say, here's what you should do, right? A good counselor is very, very reflective. A good counselor lets a patient talk and answer their own questions.
Yeah, speaking of questions, I asked that question terribly. So thank you for answering a very convoluted
No,
question.
I think
with
I
a
understood what you were
beautiful
saying pretty
response.
clearly.
Yeah, just my own personal experience. I've never really clicked with too many male counselors. And then female counselors, I'm like flirting. And like, no matter how old or whatever, I'm just like instantly like trying to sweet talk somebody.
Well, it's a dynamic, isn't it? You know, I mean, yeah, male, female. It's like, okay, where's this going? What's the expectation? What's the expectation here?
I did have one good male counselor, Jeff at Delphi. He was definitely quite knew that balance of ego quite well, and when to call people on their bullshit and not let it slide.
Yeah.
Another weird. This is just evolving into weird things that I think about now, but I'm just gonna ask you about them now. The power of words and how learning dialogue can be so beneficial and at the same time detrimental to, I'll keep it specific to things like addiction. Just hearing certain things, just giving your, like, I'll get right to the examples. The word withdrawal. You know, you're around people and they've started to experiment with drugs and things like that, and they might not be feeling good or whatever, and they don't necessarily know why. And as soon as you're given that word, it's almost like it is now the key to why you're feeling bad and what is going to make you feel better. And what made me think of this is I was talking to somebody about rehab, and they mentioned how they were sober and they were like smoking weed, and then when they went to their counselor just like served them on a silver platter. Oh, don't you think the marijuana could have, been the reason why you used opiates? And like an addict is going to do, they're instantly going to try to like take the blame or divert it or whatever. And in my own personal experience, maybe weed will lead you down to like other things, but that seems like so much of an excuse. And then he's like, and then when I got high again, I went in there and I just said, "Oh, I smoked weed," and that was probably the reason. I knew that's probably the reason I got high is because I smoked some weed. And it's like if the counselor never served them on a silver plate the excuse, they wouldn't be using it again.
Well, yeah,
2 weeks, 3 weeks, like.
Yeah, but the opioid user doesn't necessarily go into opioids or weed saying, "This is great. I'll start with weed tomorrow. I'm on to heroin."
Right.
So like, it's not. It's a question that makes sense logically. Don't you think that the weed might have got? But that's, you only know what you know. And if you're in an environment when you're younger and you don't have the opportunity to fall to reach your bottom yet, you don't know those things. Like, you don't know that about yourself, that you're going to develop this addiction. So it's kind of an unfair question, in my honest opinion. Because it's like, well, yeah, that's right. If the weed wasn't there, what if? It's almost just like a what if. It's like an excuse for the therapist or the counselor.
Right. It's like they probably know the addict is having a hard time just admitting, yes, I got high. I shouldn't have. Because, and I know I've definitely been there where I just didn't want to admit it, and I would have came up with any excuse, especially if it was just like handed to me.
Yeah.
From
I mean,
across the
I think
table.
a relapse, man, or a use, that shit happens weeks before it happens in your head,
But see, that's another thing, like, whether it's true or not, to give, you're almost, God, it's almost like you're setting the person up for failure, giving them that information. Like the information that only 5% of people get sober. It's like now you can just say, well, only 5% of people get sober. Fuck it. Like,
Yeah, you shouldn't
well,
just say that and then like leave it at that, right?
Right.
You should say why those 5% of the people get sober.
Right.
You know, and like the withdrawal thing is you can withdraw from society. You can withdraw from your sober friends. You can withdraw from your support network. And that's like the worst kind of withdrawal, right? Because when you're withdrawing, it's almost like too heavy of a word.
God, counselors hated me because I have questions like this all the time.
Of course, but it's like if you're speaking to an addict, you have to understand that they don't give a fuck about what the words mean.
Why do I feel like everything you're teaching me is wrong?
Yeah, right. It's like then the counselor becomes the enemy.
Right, and then their ego, and then it's like, and that's maybe at the root of the male female, like. I don't know. Maybe if
it's countertransference. You know, like a male counselor will look at a male client and say, maybe internalize it as a father-son relationship, right?
Or like, I'm too sick to not use your excuses.
So I don't know. This is going so like in a weird like back and trying to stay focused on what my original point was. Man, I could go into like a second point on top of that about artistry and canceling people and dialogue and the positive sides maybe to things like, did you believe you could fly before R. Kelly told you you could?
Mhm.
Like, and like,
Kanye West would say yes.
and like, you know, how easy it is to, when you're looking at the past, say, well, this person did this, this, and this was bad. Let's now get rid of everything they ever did. When it's like, can you call the kettle black? Well, did you even know that you could call the kettle black if the person that called the kettle black? What if the person that came up with saying, can you call a kettle black was a rapist? And now your entire life you've been saying, can you call a kettle...
Whoopsie.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, and like, I don't know, I'll probably end up cutting all of this out, and this will just be like weird things that I think sometimes, but it's like, isn't it kind of on us to like take the aspects of an artist and move away from the bad stuff that they did and like take the good stuff that can be found and like the yin and yang? And
I think a good artist should be able to figure that out for themselves. Damn. Is that Kanye?
Yeah, but good conversations, man. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate your
By
time.
the way, James said we can talk about the Panda album, and it's coming out in the fall. I'm not allowed to say under what.
Let's
distributor
do
label.
a hard. So, you got the text back from James.
Finally got the text back from James. We have the green light to discuss the next Panda album to an extent. I can't tell you how it will be released or under what distribution syndicate. However, it will be out in fall, and it's really good, and I'm excited, and it's gonna be dope.
And did he mention if you were able to the album title?
We don't even we don't even know the album title yet. But that is a good question. Well, we don't know what to call it. We'll figure it out. That's like the last thing to figure.
Good little insight to how they work, and
Yeah.
you know, they don't come up with it first.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I like to come up with the title of something first, and
Yeah.
then like if I'm having a hard time sticking to my topic, I'll just come up with a title, and then that gives me like a foundation.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that.
I'm not saying, that's how you should do it.
Yeah, I mean everybody does it differently.
Exactly.
There's a lot of pros and benefits to coming up with a concept for an album before it's released, and we kind of did that in a way with the songwriting first. So the title, in our opinion, will happen naturally. You know.
Yes, I don't know. I will find a way to edit me second guessing whatever I was second guessing a
That's
second
cool.
ago.
Peace. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for coming
And
to my
I'm sorry
house.
that I went off the rails the last little bit there.
That's okay.
Peace.